Hey Sully, hey Rudy, it's Nana. How you guys doing? It's been so long since Nana read you a story. I am so sorry. But tonight I'm going to read you another chapter. Do you remember the story called Charlotte's Web? It's been so long. Do you remember this book? And it is a story about, do you remember? It's a story about a little girl named Fern, and she had this little pig that started off living with her, but it was the runt of the litter, and the farmer, her dad, was going to have to kill it. And so he ended up at another farm, Mr. Zuckerman's farm, and that's where he's living now. And at that farm, do you remember who he met? He met a goose, and he met a sheep, and he met this little thing there. Do you remember what her name was? There she is. Her name is Charlotte. Yeah. So I'm going to read you another chapter of Charlotte's Web. Okay? Listen up. Hope you like it. So this is called Wilbur's Boast. Do you remember that the little pig's name is Wilbur? Yeah. So this is his boast. So he says, a spider's web is stronger than it looks. Although it's made of thin, delicate strands, the web's not easily broken. It's really strong. A web gets torn every day, however, by the insects that kick around in it. Charlotte liked to do her weavings to mend her thread, her web. She liked to do that in the late afternoon, and Fern liked to sit nearby and watch as Charlotte did her work. Who's Charlotte? She's a spider. Yeah. One afternoon, she heard a most interesting conversation, and she witnessed a very strange event. You have awfully hairy legs, Charlotte, said Wilbur, as the spider busily worked. My legs are hairy for a very good reason, said Charlotte. Furthermore, each leg of mine has 7 sections. Wilbur sat bolt upright. You're kidding. No, I'm not either, said Charlotte. Say those names again, because she'd said the names of them, the coccyx, the trochanter, the femur, all kinds of different names. She's very smart. Goodness, said Wilbur, looking down at his own chubby legs. I don't think my legs have 7 sections. Do your legs have 7 sections? Well, said Charlotte, you and I lead different lives. You don't have to spin a little web. That takes real leg work. Hey, Rudy and Sully, have you ever seen a spider's web? Yeah, they're pretty amazing. I could spin a web if I tried, said Wilbur, boasting. I've just never tried. Let's see you do it, said Charlotte. Fern chuckled softly and her eyes grew wide with love for her little pig. Okay, said Wilbur, you coach me and I'll spin one. It must be a lot of fun to spin a web. How do I start? Take a deep breath, said Charlotte, smiling. Wilbur breathed deeply. Now climb to the highest place you can get to, like this. Charlotte raced up to the top. Wilbur scrambled to the top of the manure pile. Very good, said Charlotte. Now make an attachment with your spinnerets. Hurl yourself into space and let a drag line out as you go. Wilbur hesitated a minute, then he jumped out into the air. He glanced hastily behind to see if a piece of rope was following him to check his fall, but nothing seemed to be happening in his rear, and the next thing he knew, he landed with a thump. Ooh, he grunted. Charlotte laughed so hard her web began to wiggle. What did I do wrong? Said the pig, when he recovered from his bump. Nothing, said Charlotte. It was a nice try. I think I'll try again, said Wilbur cheerfully. I believe what I need is a little piece of string to hold me. The pig walked out to his yard. You there, Templeton, he said. Do you remember Templeton was the rat? He poked his head out from under the trough. Got a little piece of string I could borrow? Asked Wilbur. I need it to spin a web. Yes, indeed, said Templeton, who saved string. No trouble at all. Anything to oblige. He crept down into his hole, pushed the goose egg out, and returned with a piece of old, dirty, white string. Wilbur examined it. That's just the thing, he said. Tie one end to my tail, will you, Templeton? Wilbur crouched low with his thin, curly tail towards the rat. Templeton seized the string, and he passed it around the end of the pig's tail. Like Fern, Charlotte watched and was truly fond of Wilbur. And she was proud to see what he was doing, and he was not a quitter. Look at, there's Templeton tying the piece of string. You see Wilbur's tail with a piece of string on it. And then look at Wilbur jumping down off the pile with a string attached to his tail. And look, there's Charlotte up on her web. And there's Templeton smiling down below. Everybody watch. He jumped off and he still landed with a thump. Templeton grinned. Charlotte sat quietly, and after a bit she spoke. Wilbur, you can't really spin a web. You have to put that out of your mind. You lack two things for spinning a web. What are they? Said Wilbur quietly. You lack spinnerets and you lack knowledge. But cheer up. You don't need a web. Suckerman supplies you with 3 meals a day. I make my web so I can catch bugs. You're ever so much cleverer and brighter than me. Charlotte, I guess I was just trying to show off. It serves me right. Templeton untied his string and took it back to his home. Charlotte returned to her weaving. You don't need to feel badly, Wilbur. Not many creatures can spin webs. It's pretty special. Even men aren't very good at it. They think they're pretty good, but they're not. Well, what do people catch on bridges? Bugs? Asked Wilbur. Because Charlotte was telling Wilbur about a bridge that people built. No, said Charlotte, they don't catch anything. They just use it to go back and forth across the water. Well, Charlotte says, I'm a little bit sedentary. Oh no, pardon me, that is Wilbur saying that. And sedentary means he sits around. He doesn't do too much. Okay, in the forest, looking for beechnuts and truffles and delectable roots. That's what I like to do, said Wilbur. You smell just the way you are, said the lamb who walked in. I can smell you from here. You're the smelliest creature in this place. Wilbur hung his head. His eyes were wet with tears. Charlotte noticed his embarrassment and she spoke sharply to the lamb. Let Wilbur alone. He has a perfect right to smell considering his surroundings. You're no bundle of sweet pea yourself. Furthermore, you're interrupting a very pleasant conversation. What were we talking about, Wilbur, when we were so rudely uninterrupted? Oh, I don't remember, said Wilbur. It doesn't matter. Let's not talk anymore for a while, Charlotte. I'm getting sleepy. Nighttime came over Zuckerman's barn, and a feeling of peace. Fern knew it was almost supper time, but she couldn't bear to leave. Swallows, those are birds, passed by silently in the doorways. Lurvy sat down under an apple tree and lit his pipe. Remember, Lurvy was the helper man. Wilbur heard the trill of the tree toad and the occasional slamming of the kitchen door. All of a sudden, as Wilbur was lying there, he began to think about he was going to die. The thought of death came to him. He began to tremble with fear. Charlotte, he said softly. Yes, Wilbur, I don't want to die. Of course you don't, said Charlotte with a comforting voice. I just love it here in the barn, said Wilbur. I love everything about this place. Of course you do, said Charlotte. We all do. The goose appeared with her little goslings. Charlotte, said Wilbur. Yes, said the spider. Were you serious when you promised you would keep them from killing me? Because remember, Charlotte said she wasn't going to let Wilbur get killed. I was never more serious in my life, said Charlotte. I'm not going to let you die, Wilbur. Well, how are you going to save me? Said Wilbur. Well, said Charlotte, I don't really know, but I'm working on a plan. That's wonderful, said Wilbur. How is the plan coming, Charlotte? Have you got very far with it? Is it coming along pretty well? Wilbur was trembling again, but Charlotte was very cool and collected. It's coming along fine, she said. When do you work on it? When I'm hanging head down on the top of my web and all the blood goes to my head, that's when I'm thinking about it. I would help you if I could, said Wilbur. Oh, I think I'll work it out alone, said Charlotte. I can think better if I do it alone. All right, said Wilbur, but don't fail to tell me if there's anything I can do to help. Well, said Charlotte, you must try and build yourself up. I want you to get plenty of sleep. Stop worrying. Don't hurry. Stop worrying. Chew your food. Stop worrying. Gain weight. Stay well. That's the way that you can help. Keep fit. Don't lose your nerve. Do you think you understand? Yes, I understand, said Wilbur. Go to bed then, said Charlotte. Sleep is important. Wilbur trotted over to the darkest corner of his pen, threw himself down, closed his eyes. In another minute he spoke. Charlotte? he said. Yes, Wilbur. May I go out to my trough and see if I left any of my supper? I think I left just a tiny bit of mashed potatoes there. Very well, said Charlotte. But then I want you to go to bed without delay. Wilbur started to race out to his yard. Slowly, slowly, said Charlotte. Never hurry, never worry. Wilbur checked himself and crept slowly to his trough. He found a piece of potato, chewed it carefully, swallowed it, and he walked back to bed. He closed his eyes and was silent for a while. Charlotte, he said in a whisper. Yes, may I get a drink of milk? I think there are a few drops of milk in my trough. No, the trough is dry and I want you to go to sleep. No more talking. Close your eyes and go to sleep. He sounds like some kids that I know, some grandchildren that I know that don't like going to sleep. Close your eyes, Wilbur. No more talking. Fern got up from her stool and started for home. Good night, Charlotte, said Wilbur. Good night, Wilbur. There was a pause. Good night, Charlotte. Good night, Wilbur. Good night. Good night. That's the end of this chapter. The next one's called An Explosion. And there's Charlotte on her web, and I'll read that for you next time. I love you, babies. Bye for now.